sounds like fun.
Hey, Rich, sounds like fun.
Yes, why are we talking about impromptu speaking to people who know how to impromptu speak? Because sometimes we each get up here and are called upon to answer a question, and we don't quite nail it, or we don't quite answer the question, or we slide into something else that's not relevant and just sit down, and we don't win best impromptu speech. And furthermore, there's one secret to always winning the best impromptu speech. Would you like to know what it is?
Yes, Rich, sounds like fun.
If Brian Logsdon would hear, he'd say humor. Humor always wins. Now, I'm not going to use any humor in this speech today.
Hey, Rich, sounds like fun.
Good, all right. So why we're talking about impromptu speaking, number one is we confront impromptu speaking every single day. Did you notice how Kelby noticed that the stuff wasn't put out? These things weren't put out today, and she impromptuly picked up the stuff and started an impromptu speech. As she walked around, she was talking about the word of the day and where stay vacations and all that, what she did and what fun was. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Was it not smooth?
Very.
She did two things at once. Now, there are only two women here, and we know well that two women can do more than one thing at once. The rest of us, there's no hope. There's no hope. Men can't do that. Okay, guys, one of the other reasons why we talk about impromptu speaking is because it happens to us all the time. We don't even notice it. You notice the humor that was elicited from this side of the room by John Juris when he knocked over the chair. He said something afterwards and it got a laugh. What were your exact words, John?
Clumsy, I would be able to get out of bed in the morning.
John is not doing a good example of how well he did the first time. Something like, please be sure to not knock over the furniture when you get up. So that's the idea. What people have been demonstrating here is the first principle, an important principle of being an effective impromptu speaker. Would you like to know what it is?
Rich, sounds like fun.
It's listening. Listening. We're talking about listening to, and that means being aware of what this is and being aware of the word of the day and listening to people around you, because listening it gives you full attention, and it can also allow you to hitchhike on some of the things that have already been said. You can agree, disagree, whatever. So listening is extremely important to be able to be a good, effective impromptu speaker. Would you like to know the second reason? Second reason, would you like to know?
Hey, Rich, sounds like fun.
Ed did not want to know, so Ed, you can leave the room. Okay. Pausing is, no, just kidding, Ed. Pausing is really important. I talk about the power pause in doing a speech, where we stand there, we get set, and we take about 2 or 3 long seconds, and we survey the room. We make eye contact with different parts of the room. Only takes 2 or 3 seconds. But in that power pause, you command the room. You let people put their pencils down or swallow their food and get ready to get to hear what you say. We all know that. We've been talking about that for years. But there's a power pause that relates also to impromptu speaking. It's the same. It's the same. That's what I learned most from this little Better Speaker series, that they encourage us to do the same thing. So we're called upon to speak. We've been listening. We stand up. We pause. We look around. It allows us, it allows us to collect our thoughts, to think about what was that question and what is going to be my best answer. And so, the next, would you like to know the third reason?
Yes, it
I
sounds
had to
like
peek to
fun.
remember what the heck it was. It's to confirm that you got the question right. Some people suggest that this is stalling. I've heard us be in our evaluations say, well, you're stalling in your impromptu speech, Rich. Well, I'm actually confirming. Adam, you do this. And who's the guy, who's the young dude who sits over here?
Sean?
Sean?
No, he's the guy that works up there at the prison.
Sean.
Sean.
John? Sean really does a really good job of confirming. He'll stand up there and, you know, I don't know if you notice how he does this, and he's won table topics a lot of times because he restates the question as he heard it. And of course, not only does it allow him to clarify it exactly in his own mind, but as you know, as Randy would say, it's another way to stall. But it's cool stalling, you know? And people don't realize that's what you're doing. Because guess what? Some of the other people in the room didn't hear the question the first time. So we're doing that well. So confirming the question. Now, this is one of the most important things. This is something that I train my students in class to do. It was written in Dale Carnegie's book. It is huge. Would you like to know what it is?
Sure, Rich. Sounds like fun.
It is to do the speech, to do the impromptu speech, right? To do it, to tell. And how do you do this? How do you tell? I used to tell my students, when you're called upon to speak, get into an example immediately. Get into an example immediately. And there are 3 words that can help you remember to get into an example immediately. Would you like to know what those 3 words are?
Sure, it sounds like fun.
There I was. There I was. Would you all please say that with me? There I was. And the next thing that happens is when and where. There I was. Well, when did this happen and where were you? And boom, they launch into a story. We don't tell them that it is a story because people think a story is going to take a couple minutes. You can tell a story in 15, 20 seconds. And okay, and so that's one way to tell, to get into your impromptu speech. Begin with an example immediately. Are there any other things, secrets about telling? Yes, there are. You can state an opinion and tell the reasons for it. Number 2, you can do past, present, or future. When somebody asks you a question, what do you think of the human race? Well, let's start back with Adam. Then we'll go up to Ben Franklin, and then we'll go to Randy Knowles. Boy, would you like to hear why I'm using Randy Knowles' name so much in this speech?
No.
Sure, yeah. Sounds like fun.
Because he won Toastmaster of the Quarter, that's why. Okay, so we're rolling along, and one of the important things to remember about telling the speech is to remember what Abe Lincoln said. He said, be prepared, be brief, and be seated. Would you like to see me do that right now?
Yeah,
Hey, Rich, sounds like fun.
Well, it ain't gonna happen right now. We're gonna move to the end. The end. We're almost there, guys. How do you end an impromptu speech effectively? You restate the question and in a sentence or two summarize your answer. And so it's so exciting today for me to be doing this impromptu speech in front of you because I'm learning again what I should remember about impromptu speaking. And there are tips that you have as successful people. and impromptu in your professions that you could add to this? We have time for 31 seconds, or any tips that you could add to this to be a better impromptu speaker. 31 seconds, go.
Practice.
Perfect.
Huh?
Practice.
Practice. Okay.
Practice.
Time's up. What? Oh, what?
Well, you said practice, but this is impromptu.
I agree.
Practice. Okay. Can you plan for an impromptu speech?
Sure.
Yes.
Points,
Yes, you can plan for an impromptu speech. And in the Engaging Humor Pathway, they actually have a project called The Power of Humor in Impromptu Speaking. And I've done that project a couple times already, and I believe it is one of the most challenging projects ever. And sometime we'll talk about what it is and how to do it. But for today, we'll end this sucker. We'll end this sucker by just saying, remember, when you get up to speak, there are some simple, basic things to remember to do. And I know some of us do them automatically and some of us don't. So remember, listen, pause, confirm the question, get into an example immediately, and don't talk all day. Mr. Toastmaster.
This is